You know who it is, and you know what time it is. Time to piss off some feminists, trad cucks, and whoever don't want to know the truth. Oh well, let's get started.
What is going on, gents? It's R.P.M. here, reporting for Mobile Command. Gentlemen, let's take a quick dive into this article, because when I saw the title, my ears perked up real quick, because we know where this is going to lead. Now, this article was published on the 8th of May. Can coronavirus be sexually transmitted? Study from China points to yes. Gentlemen, you know whenever the topic of an STD comes up, you know what I'm going to say. Just get a damn doll. That way you avoid all of this crap. Less than 2 weeks after the release of research from the University of Utah showing that the coronavirus is unlikely to spread through sexual contact, a new study out of China is suggesting the opposite. Gentlemen, we know that viruses can and often do mutate into stronger forms of themselves. Perfect example, antibiotic resistant strains of gonorrhea, aka super gonorrhea. Yeah. Posted on the Journal of American Medicine's peer-reviewed open access site on Thursday. The study analyzed 38 semen samples of men with the coronavirus in central China and found the presence of SARS-CoV-2 in 6 of them. Gentlemen, we know that this can also be turned into an anti-male article. So don't be surprised if you hear about this later on down the line. Just saying. Unlike the U of U study, which was conducted on men 1 month after their COVID-19 diagnosis, the JAMA examined the semen of men who were recently or currently hospitalized. The majority of the positive results came from severely ill patients, with 4 out of the 6 positive samples coming from individuals considered to be at the acute stage of infection. The other 2 positive cases were among men who had reached clinical recovery, a finding the researchers deemed particularly noteworthy. My question would be, what is the age range of these men? Yeah. The authors acknowledge that the presence of the virus in semen is not necessarily unusual. Researchers have identified 27 other viruses in semen of those infected with certain diseases, including Ebola, Zika, and HIV. The authors add that given the sample size, more testing is needed. This study is limited by the small sample size and the short subsequent follow-up, they write. Therefore, further testing are required with respect to the detailed information about virus shedding, survival time, and concentration in semen. Dr. James M. Hodling, professor at University of Utah Health and an author on the earlier study, says the new research doesn't necessarily contradict earlier findings, i.e., yes, viruses do mutate. They're just two totally different cohorts of patients. It's like comparing apples to oranges, Hodling tells Yahoo Life. Ours was, generally speaking, people with mild forms of COVID-19 who were on average 31 days out from diagnosis. According to a chart from the JAMA study, 4 out of the 6 patients who tested positive were still hospitalized at the time. Of the other 2, one reported being 12 days from the onset of symptoms and another 16 days. Hodling says it's unclear exactly how many individuals in the U of U study were hospitalized. The data that came from China as well, but it appears most were not. U of U's study, published in late April, had suggested that there may be a quote-unquote threshold for sexual transmission, meaning that those who are super sick could carry the virus in semen. Hodling says that may be what is being shown here. Our study was showing whether COVID-19 lingers in the semen when people who are in full recovery. And the answer is no, we don't see it, he says. If you want to have intercourse while you're super sick, I mean, most people aren't having sexual relations while they're in the ICU or in the hospital. But you know, from this study, it looks like in a small percentage of patients, the virus is there. Once again, gentlemen, do you want to take that risk? The Center for Disease Control and Prevention has not issued any official guidances in terms of sexual contact during the coronavirus pandemic. But in a post from the American Sexual Health Association's Ask the Experts forum, infectious disease expert Dr. Hunter Hansfield suggests proceeding with caution. There is no data so far to prove this, but common sense indicates it's a high-risk activity and that sex with multiple partners is especially high risk. The same is true of other infections, colds, flu, VG, and in some parts of the world, serious infections like Ebola and Zika. All these can be viewed as quote-unquote sexually transmissible, even though they are not classified as sexually transmitted. Hansfield writes, presumably, the mechanism of sexual transmission of COVID-19 is mostly through respiratory secretions, but having sex is pretty much impossible without potential exposure to respiratory secretions and or contaminated hands and fingers. Gentlemen, gentlemen, gentlemen. After this whole pandemic somewhat blows over and things get back to somewhat a modified normal state, is it really going to be worth it trying to get laid? Of course, my answer is going to be hell no. Hell no. However, gentlemen, as I always say in any video that I put out about waifus and sex, proceed carefully. Be smart. Now, here is how you can perform the perfect test for women. If there's a woman who shows you interest, tell her from the jump, let's go get tested together. You come with me down to the hospital and we get tested for everything together. If she says nope, or if she resists that idea, guess what? Scratch her off the list. Hell yeah, gentlemen. Your health should be your number one priority. Now, we all know before Me Too, before yes means yes, before this outbreak, getting sex was dependent on a few factors. Namely, drinking to lighten the mood, to lower the inhibitions. But guess what? Now that we all know if women have so much as one drink, she can say, you know what? I could not consent. And many men have went down because of a night of drunken sex. Or that woman can come back and say, you know what? I regretted having sex with you. Regret rape. Yeah. Sex has been thoroughly weaponized. However, with this outbreak, that playing field has been somewhat leveled. And with something like this potentially on the rise, you know what you can do, gentlemen? You can put the power squarely in your hands. So yeah, let these women know. We go get tested together. If she says nope, then guess what? Get up, walk away. Because that means she's willing to put your health at risk just to try to get your resources. Gentlemen, you cannot fall for that trap. You cannot. Well, read this article. Let me know what you guys think. And ladies, the power is still metaphorically out. The sexual revolution has pretty much gone out right along with it. And with articles like this, more and more men are going to be on guard because we know a lot of you women out there with as much carousel riding that you've done, you're coming to us as a human petri dish. Thanks, but no thanks. That's all I got to say for this one. R.P.M. I am out.